Good morning students and welcome back to the class. Today I will start novel book. First three chapters already we had done and today I will start chapter number 4. Monsieur Lee Marquis. Monsieur means Mr. Before I start this chapter, I want to make you familiar with the characters once again. Already you are familiar, but once again you have to go through it. Charles Darnay, second character is Mr. Lorry, Dr. Manette, Lucy Manette, Miss Prose, Solomon, Sydney Carton, Gaspard, Defarge, Terrace, and last one is Gable. So these are the main characters which will come in chapter 4 and chapter 5. 4 months had passed since Charles had been cleared of the treason. Treason means crime. Treason means crime. So he had been cleared of this crime, and one summer evening, Mr. Lorry, he was on his way to dine at Dr. Manette's house. While he was going, he was thinking about his old friend that now he is well enough to practice the medicine again. When he reached his house, the maid led him to the living room and told him to wait because Dr. Manette and his daughter, they have gone for the morning walk. And next, since there was no sign of the Miss Prose, so Mr. Lorry decided to go have a look around the house. When he moved around the house, he saw the Dr. Manette's room, and there in that room he saw the bench and the shoemaker's tools which he used to do when he was in prison. As he was moving around this, suddenly Miss Prose came and she asked Mr. Lorry, "You are doing the work of spy work. Why? Why are you spying here?" Then Mr. Lorry got little confused and said, No, I'm not, my purpose is not to do any that work. But then Mr. Prose asked Mr. Lorry, "I think you are little embarrassed. So something is upsetting you, and I think that is my Lucy." Then Miss Prose said, dozens of people are coming to my this house to meet Lucy. So I don't want that type of the work here. Already she is disturbed. Then Mr. Lorry said, she said that Miss Prose is protective of Lucy. She cares for her. He also knew that she was one of the most selfless people in the world. There was another person, character here, I already told, that is Solomon. He is brother of Miss Prose. But he had made one mistake in his life. Miss Laurie had heard that Miss Prost's brother was a heartless devil who had taken everything she owned and disappeared, even her property. And even he had not written any letter to her sister since 5 years had passed. Mr. Laurie made himself comfortable in a seat by the window, and he is just remembering about Dr. Manette, how he spent his those years in the prison. Then he asked Miss Prose, "Do you suppose the doctor has any idea why he was put in the prison for so many years and by whom?" Mr. Prose said, "I don't know about this thing, but only Lucy can tell you why he was in the prison. As he sometimes gets up in the middle of the night and paces back and forth, means he moves front and back, and Lucy goes to him and they pace back and forth together." Mr. Laurie then learned that there were some times when good doctors sank into the deeper inner world, and he thought this is not the right time to talk about Dr. Manette's condition. Then immediately Lucy and Dr. Manette, they arrived back from their walk and all sat together for the dinner. Dr. Manette was looking well, and even Lucy was looking more beautiful, as her cheeks quite were pink and her golden hair glistening, shining. After dinner, Charles Darnay, another character, he also arrived and joined the company, but in the garden, outside. They began talking about the sight they had seen in the London. Then, that time, Charles mentioned about the Tower of London, where the letters of alphabet had been discovered carved on the wall of one of the cells. Cell means prison. When Dr. Manette listened these words, immediately his face turned pale. And then Charles Darnay asked, "My father, you are ill?" "No, my dear, not ill, but just he was trying to pretend." And he said, "Large drops of rain falling is there, so it is better to go inside the house." The doctor recovered almost instantly, and rain really was falling in the last drop. And for this, he showed the back of his hand with the raindrops on it. Mr. Laurie, however, had his doubt why he is pretending like this. Then Miss Prose served the tea. Same time, Sidney Carden also came, and he also joined them. And despite the heavy rain, the night was hot and steamy. It means humid weather was there. The raindrops are still falling, large, heavy, and few. There was a great hurry in the street. People were speeding away to find the shelter before the storm broke, and room was full of the echoes of the footsteps coming and going, as somebody is coming and somebody is going. But actually, nobody was coming and going. It was imagination of Lucy Manette. Same thing she said to to Charles Darnay, and he also said, "It is a foolish idea. It is your imagination. Nobody is here." Then again, "A great crowd is bearing upon us. I see them. I hear them. Here they come fast, furious and furious. They are running toward us." But immediately the rain stopped, the flashes of the lightning stopped, and all these things has taken away the echoes of the footsteps. Now there was no more echoes of the footsteps. Now at the same time, in France, Monsieur Le Marquis, he was in the carriage heading for his chateau. Chateau means country house. Chateau means country house. He was on his way to his house, and the driver whipped the horses mercilessly, and soon the carriage was racing through the narrow street where number of men, women, children, they were trying to escape from this carriage. As the carriage rumbled furiously on its way, one of its wheel ran over something, and that felt like a sack of potatoes, throwing the Marquis out of his seat, and there was a wild cry arose from the people on the street, and carriage stopped. Marquis looked angrily out of the carriage window and said, "What on earth is wrong?" Then a tall man in the nightcap had taken up the bundle from behind the carriage, and he was laying it near one fountain over there. "Pardon." Then he said, "Pardon, Monsieur le Marquis," said ragged bystander. Ragged means worn out clothes he has worn, and it is a child. The man was crying and howling over the body of the child. "Why does he make the terrible noise? Is it his child for which he is making, for which he is shouting?" "Excuse me, Monsieur le Marquis, it is." The tall man, his face twisted in agony, ran toward the carriage shouting, "Killed!" Stopped desperately, staring at the Marquis, crying over and over, "Dead, dead, dead." That is, child is dead. The Marquis looked at them, and as if they were just like rats. He considered men, women, and children just like the rats moving on the earth. "Why can't you take better care of the children? One of them is always in the way. I hope my horse is not injured." See, he was much careful about his horse, not about that child who has died. At that, he threw a gold coin out the window, which fell at the feet of the poor father, who was crying, "Dead, dead, dead." A large man with a heavy jaw, thick angry eyebrows, took the father of his dead child into his arms, and he said, "Be a brave man, Gaspard." Now, that child was, his father was Gaspard. "So it is better for the poor thing to die." Now he is making a philosophy. It is better for the poor thing to die in this way than live in these times. So at least he died quickly. He has not to suffer any poverty. "You are a philosopher, you there," smiled the Marquis. "What do you call? What is your name?" Then that person said, "My name is Defarge." The Marquis tossed another coin at the feet of Defarge. "Here, take this, philosopher Defarge. You take this gold coin." Then what happened? As they were about to leave, the same coin was again thrown back to the carriage, and it landed at the feet of the Marquis. Then he ordered the driver, "Hold the horses." "Who threw that?" The Marquis looked out of the carriage window at the spot where Defarge had been. "The devil who threw that deserves to be crushed under my wheels." But no one dared to raise their eyes to the Marquis. They stood silently, heads bowed. But only one person was bold enough. Bold means he was much brave to look at him. It was Defarge's wife, Therese, and she was always in a habit of knitting something. Then from that situation he moved away. Marquis moved away, and he traveled through the open country, through the villages. Patches of the poor wheat could be seen on the either side of the road. And soon what he saw over there, poor peasants, they are working hard. They are not getting enough food, because they have to pay the number of taxes for the state, for the Lord, to the church, local taxes, general taxes. So their only purpose in life, it was seemed to pay the taxes, and that left with them is what? Extreme poverty. Then halfway through the village, the Marquis noticed the workman watching the carriage and ordered his driver to stop. He said, "What were you looking at just now? Why you were looking toward our carriage?" "A man, Your Honor, hanging from your carriage." Somebody was hanging. "I couldn't say, Your Honor, because he was covered in dust," and then immediately he jumped off and ran toward the into the forest. Gable was the postman, tax collector, policeman of the village. He had also seen the stranger. Then Marcus called out to him and said, "Find this man and arrest him." Gable nodded respectfully. Then by the nightfall, Marcus he reached his country house and he inquired if his nephew, who was his nephew? Charles Darnay, whether he had arrived or not. But the butler, he replied he had not. Then he was sitting and he told the butler to get ready with the dinner. Immediately that time he saw one figure moving among the trees in the garden. "My nephew has not arrived yet you said." "No, my lord, he hasn't." Butler said, "No, he hasn't come. But just now I saw somebody is moving in the garden." He said, "It may be the wind in the trees." "Okay, fine, you may bring my meal." And then he told butler to bring his dinner. Then same time, the Frenchman, not found guilty of the crime at Old Bailey, who? Charles Darnay, he came and met his uncle Marquis. Then he said that straight from England I am coming, uncle, and were it not very important nature of my business, I would not be here at all. So something is important, that's why I have come over here. And I feel I am in danger here, because once we had the power of life and death over these dreadful peasant, means these farmers, workers, but people do not think the same way now. Their attitude had changed. I believe we have used our position unfairly. Charles Darnay is saying to his uncle, and I see nothing but only hate in their eyes. Then our family, our honorable family, we destroyed anyone who came between us and our pleasures. And you, my father, both have carried on this frightful tradition. And your father is dead, but my mother's last wish was, again, you have to give the honor to these peasants. Then Marquis laughed. Have you gone mad? We will deal with these peasants. He tried to explain, Charles tried to explain his uncle, but he didn't listen, and then he said, "Okay, now it is night, you go and sleep, and morning we'll talk." But next morning what happened? There was a stir in the village. Gable was summoned. Summoned means called to the Chatham's country house of the St. Evermond. When he arrived, he was taken by the butler directly to the Marquis' bedroom, and where he saw something that made his blood run cold. Why? Because lying on what he saw, blood-soaked sheets on the huge bed, was Marquis with a knife through his heart, and a note was there: "Go fast to your grave, this is from Jacques." So, thanks.